Little complications there. Chrome Corner, Chrome and Charlie T. We're back, and it is news day here in the Chrome Corner studio. So what we got to talk about is three different things. First thing we're going to talk about is the Paddy Pimblett fight. Then we're going to talk about a former UFC fighter who passed away. And then we're also going to talk about a former UFC fighter who is in a murder case situation. All very heightened, sensitive topics. So we're going to start with the Paddy fight. Charlie T, what do you think? Who do you think won, first of all? And then tell me your thoughts.
Well, Jared Gordon won. And I think it really dives further into the complication when it comes to judging in MMA, especially in terms of some of the decisions that they've given out. I mean, I don't even think it was a split decision win for Gordon. I thought it was a unanimous win. I had him winning two out of 3 rounds. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I could see his scorecard where he got all 3. He controlled the pace of the fight. He had control over Pimblett. He had him up against the cage a lot. Striking wise, he outdid him too. I don't see any fathomable way that Pimblett won that fight other than a little finagling on the scorecard. I just gave y'all vocabulary diatribe. Enjoy. But anyone who scored Pimblett winning that fight, I think, needs to be looked at a little further. Maybe there was bias. Obviously, there was bias. And it also shows that Pimblett's not ready to take on the top 155ers at all. Imagine him in the ring with the Islam. He's going to get mauled.
Yeah,
that fight doesn't go past 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, they have done Paddy a little bit of a... Well, let me say it like this. I was going to say they've done Paddy a little bit of a disservice by moving him up the way that they have, but I think it's on Paddy a little bit as well. So if you're going to talk all that game like Paddy does and say that you're the best in the world and you're going to, like, be brash and, like, out there like that, you might get moved up a little faster. And I'm sure he wanted the money that came with it and all that stuff. But at the same time, you're also going to get some tougher fighters. And I think unlike I consider him and Sean O'Malley to be on a little bit of a similar trajectories, but Sean O'Malley's just been in the game longer. And I think Sean had a little bit of a slower road to higher level competition than Paddy did, and I don't think Paddy's as skilled in the end. I think we've kind of realized now that Paddy, he probably got moved up a little too fast as far as his talent level, and then he's also just not as good as we thought because he's brought himself to stardom, you know?
Paddy he's not one-dimensional because he has good striking and he has good submission game. He's dangerous on the ground, but his striking is not elite. He obviously can't control the pace of a fight. Jared Gordon's not even he's not even top 15, is he?
No, I don't think he's ranked, but I think he has almost the same exact record as Paddy. So, yeah.
If you can't thoroughly control a fight with a guy who's not even ranked, not taking anything away from Jared Gordon, but you don't deserve those top fights. I mean, but then again, we sat here and said the same thing about Sean O'Malley. We didn't know if he was ready for the big timers. Then he beat Peter Yan. So,
but he's had a lot more UFC fights than.
Yeah, but maybe Paddy could surprise us. I don't see him doing that because I think he's a less talented version of Conor McGregor with better submission game.
Yeah.
But as a striker, he's nowhere near Conor.
Yeah, one thing that I noticed coming into this fight that kind of made me raise an eyebrow, like, well, this might be a little bit different for Paddy than these other fights, is Jared Gordon is a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but not just a brown belt. He's a brown belt under John Danaher. John Danaher that coaches Gordon Ryan, the greatest jiu-jitsu artist probably of all time, or the most dominant at least. And so a brown belt under him is probably like a black belt under some other guys, sometimes. So Paddy had a really good submission attempt at one point, with it kind of like it was something where he was angled off to the side, but he couldn't pull it off.
The key takeaway here is, we can debate all day if he won the fight or lost it. They gave him the decision. We learned a lot, and he's not ready for top 5 competition.
Yeah. I would agree with that. And I think one thing to note, and I mean, if Paddy doesn't fix this, I think there's almost zero chance he wins a title, is that his chin is so high in the air and he stands so straight up with wide open arms, like way out here when he's striking, that, I mean, you cannot come anywhere near the top level strikers in a division with that type of a stance if you don't have like the kiss of death, and he doesn't have that much power.
Well, the thing is like guys like Poirier, Chandler, Gaethje, they are not going to miss. They're going to exploit that obvious hole in his game, and it's not going to be pretty for him if he doesn't correct that and if he gets a fight with one of them.
Yeah, I agree. So would you, before we move on to the next topic, would you chalk it up to just purely bad judging, or would you chalk it up to bad judging with like maybe they're a little starstruck by Paddy, or would you say it's corruption?
I don't know what we're learning about judging and a little bit of corruption. I think it's a mix of all three.
Yeah.
I don't think necessarily starstruck. I think it's just bad judging and tinges of corruption.
Yeah.
Because we've seen some... Dude, you can talk about bad judging all day. When Shogun fought Machida, Rampage, when he fought Keith Jardine. So bad judging's been around for a while. It's more obvious now, I think.
Yeah.
And the UFC has such a desire to promote certain fighters that they think can tap into the market that Conor McGregor created. And that's what it boils down to. And the two fighters that they have a vested interest in are Paddy Pimblett and Sean O'Malley.
If O'Malley, who fights at 135, fought Paddy Pimblett, who fights at 155, who wins?
Sean O'Malley whoops his ass.
Yeah. Okay.
God, I don't even think that was close. O'Malley's just a gifted fighter. Sandhagen versus Sean O'Malley. I think that'd be an amazing fight.
A striking matchup of two long guys.
Just two guys who are uber talented.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the next topic, the second topic of 3. We've got Stephan Bonnar. Unfortunately, he's a UFC legend who just passed away. He passed away on December 22nd at age 45. He had a record of 15-9 in the UFC. Nickname was the American Psycho. He's known as having one of the most crucial fights in UFC history as far as bringing the sport to stardom, which was a fight between him and Forrest Griffin for the Ultimate Fighter 1 finale, where Forrest Griffin actually won a split decision, but it was an amazing fight back and forth the whole time, and it was when the sport really needed something like that to help it take off, so he's kind of known as a legend around the sport. He passed away recently due to heart complications. I believe it was while he was at work. And there's also speculations, and people that are close to him said that he was dealing with some drug problems, and I think there was an incident where he had been kicked out of a hospital because they wouldn't give him some type of pain medicine at some point, so maybe some mental health issues along the line. It's just a really tragic thing that I kind of wanted to touch on,
Yeah, I mean, there was a video of him a few years ago. I believe he pulled over for DUI arrest. Obviously battled pretty bad substance abuse problems. Obviously a tragedy because, like you said, he was part of the most important fight in MMA history. Without that fight, I mean, Dana White said multiple times, the UFC probably wouldn't have survived.
Yeah, yeah, that's
And the thing about Stephan Bonner is guys like him and Forrest Griffin, they would not succeed. I feel like in today's MMA, they're not like these guys are super athletic, gifted, very talented. No, they're just hard workers who laid everything out on the line every single time they went in the octagon.
yeah, I agree, and I think that they probably really, really appealed to the average guy back then too, when that was all popping off, because the UFC kind of was more like that. I mean, you had some skilled guys, some very skilled guys, but of course, but a lot of guys, like you said, they're not near as skilled and as talented and as athletic as the guys now, because there wasn't much money in it. There was not a whole lot of notoriety about martial arts back then versus now.
The early, mid, and even into late 2000s, the UFC was more relatable. It was more blue collar. You had like the tap out guys. Everyone was wearing the affliction shirts.
Yeah.
It was more of like a striking type of sport. And the light heavyweight division was the division.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's hard to believe now because John Jones kind of took over it. And now it's the most irrelevant division in the UFC. It's crazy because the lightweight division was the most irrelevant division in the 2000s.
Yeah.
Nobody talked about lightweight.
That was the lowest weight you could go for a while before the UFC got the WEC.
Yeah, you had WEC, which, by the way, if you haven't watched WEC fights, go back and watch that. Uriah Faber,
Anthony Pettis,
Jose Aldo, those guys were amazing in WEC. Yeah, but it's crazy because the bigger guys were the more talented guys, and the light heavyweight divisions were always the main events.
Yep. It was that was a sight to see back then. That was like you said, the Rampages. Anderson Silva was in 185 doing some great crazy things too. John Jones.
It really coincided with the end of Pride spilling over into UFC because Pride was dominated by the heavier divisions as well, with like Vanderlei Silva, Krokop, Fedor, Dan Henderson, Rampage. Those guys, I don't know. It's crazy, like the evolution of MMA from heavier guys to now it's dominated by basically 155 and below.
Yeah, those are definitely the most exciting, most competitive divisions.
Yeah, it's insane. But rip Stephan Bonner, it's certainly sad. I know there's speculation on the internet and everything else about the vaccine or whatever. I don't know. It's weird. The guy just has a heart attack and drops dead. I mean, obviously he had substance abuse issues as well. Very sad.
World for sure. There's a lot of speculation around athletes in all different sports with the vaccine and stuff, but we won't go too conspiracy theorist on here. So we'll move on to the last topic. This is an interesting one. This is a guy that I had heard the name before, but I couldn't have really pictured him in my head until this came up and I started looking back into him as a fighter. But his name is Phil Baroni. He actually has fought in the UFC. He's fought in Pride. He's fought in Strikeforce, Dream, Elite XC, Bellator, BKFC. I mean, almost every major organization you could think of. And he's in a case right now pending, arrest and case about the murder of his girlfriend, which he admits to but says it was accidental, and so that's the investigation right now. But what were you going to say?
Well, I am a little more familiar with Phil Baroni because
Okay.
I remember watching him fight Pride, and I also remember him fighting for, I believe, the inaugural light heavyweight championship in Elite XC against the legend Frank Shamrock.
Oh, okay. That's definitely a
and Phil
legend.
Baroni, if you look at Phil Baroni's career record, I believe he has more losses than wins.
Yeah,
but
he does.
that is totally obscure because Phil Baroni only fought top competition. He didn't fight a bunch of no names. He started off fighting the top guys and kept it going. He fought in top organizations. He was a great fighter. He's not obviously not a guy who cares about his record or anything because he took on tough fights.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's obviously it's sad for the family of the woman he inadvertently killed. It sounds like he didn't do it necessarily on purpose, but still a case of you don't put your hands on somebody and because you have deadly force as a trained fighter. So
yeah, trained fighter, not a small guy, you know. I mean, again, it's a man versus a woman, like you said. You know, you don't ever put your hands on a woman, and we're not gonna get into too much speculation, but like I know that in some of the stories it says there was bruises on her, so you never know if that was a problem for them, you know, getting physical with each other, or if it was just a one-time incident where he says that he threw her in a shower, I think is what all the stories say. So if he threw her in the shower and you slip in a shower or something like that, there's a good chance you're going to get a lot of bruises. So, you never know.
Pretty hard to kill him, though.
That's for sure. I mean, there's freak accidents that could happen, but at the same time, let's be honest, we don't know until things come out. Like, I'm always someone who's about innocent until proven guilty. But at the same time, like, as far as trends go with fighters, and a lot of them are reckless guys, a lot of them live wild lifestyles, they're trained, they're, tough as nails, and then they date girls who are probably a little wild themselves at times because they fit into that lifestyle. And so that can be a recipe for disaster,
You also have to remember, like, we don't know in terms of violence in MMA compared to other sports with repeated trauma to the head, like football players in CTE have been known to have proven that they're prone to violent outbursts and even domestic violence as a result of that. Boxers as well. MMA fighters take shots to the head. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know they say it's safer than football and everything else because you're not taking repeated blows as much, but I guess it should be looked into maybe because, I mean, it wasn't, and also we don't know in regards to like PEDs, maybe steroids. I know that War Machine, remember him?
Yep.
Yeah, he beat the shit out of his girlfriend. I think it was like a famous porn star he was dating. Beat the crap out of her. He didn't kill her, but I think he got life in jail.
Yeah, I think he did. I don't know what he got, but I know it was a lot, and I know that she looked pretty bad after the incident. Yeah. I mean, there's no excuse for her to look that way in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, dude, you just can't. I mean, there should be a warning sign to upcoming fighters or anybody else in a sport where they think they need that competitive advantage to take things that they shouldn't. It could have an effect on your mental state and cause you to do things that you wouldn't do in the normal, in your normal state of mind.
Yeah. Yeah, but two talented guys, especially like we didn't really get to see the talent of War Machine like progress to where it could have been because he was still relatively young in his career, and he was an Ultimate Fighter guy too, I believe, like Stephan Bonner. But yeah, just a sad situation all around. Hopefully it ends up being an accident, and hopefully it's something that he'll kind of just take a step back and look at his actions and maybe live a little differently moving forward.
Accident or not, someone's dead. And he's got to pay the consequences for that because he is responsible. So, yep. I mean,
that's the legal
obviously,
system.
Even if he didn't mean to do it, that's one thing. Maybe they'll look at that, but like someone's dead.
Yeah.
And what's most important is like the family deserves justice and another thing for him, he's not dealing with the American justice system. He's in Mexico, so.
Yeah.
I don't know how they'll treat him, but I don't think the justice system is as kind to Americans in Mexico. So.
And he's a tough dude, but the prisons over there have got to be just
Yeah.
terrible.
That's why you always think about what you do before you do it. You don't put
Facts.
your hands on women, you don't beat them, you don't throw them.
Facts. Well, that's the news day for the Chrome Corner, man. It was good talking to you. Any words to part with, or are we just closing it out for next time?
I'm ready for the next pay-per-view. I want to talk, I want to talk about some more fighting, not this depressing news.
Yep, I agree. It's been a little bit since we've had like a good run of big cards, so I'm ready for that too. But it was good talking to you, Charlie.
Yeah, sure.
Have a good day, brother, and we'll see you next time we're out.